Hey there, Sart here, back again, taking another swing at Morgana Legend difficulty. So in my last two videos, we accomplished the just basically the mission challenges. My first clear was the party of 5 or less to get the rod. Then I went back again with the 6th unit to get the turn count missions. You know, I feel like that's perfectly legitimate with this particular trial. This is not an easy trial. It was not designed to be easy to do an all missions clear on this one. And so, you know, don't feel bad if you're not doing an all missions clear. If it takes you 2 or 3 different teams to get all the mission challenges, you know, that's perfectly fine here. Don't feel bad at all. So now I've got all the mission challenges, so now we're doing the extra challenges. And if you saw my last video, I am 3 unique units shy of getting the celestite rod upgrade recipe. I really want that recipe because that's going to be useful for my Esther clear that I'm going to do later. Because I'm going to need pretty much as much morale as I can get early on in the fight. Because Morgana really doesn't like when people use their limit bursts, and of course Esther likes to use her limit burst for her primary mode of damage. So yeah, we're going to need to do as few limit bursts as we can, as quickly as we can, so that we're not suffering the consequences too much when I do my Esther clear. But yeah, that'll come later. So we got to get this rod recipe first. So let's go and get that. I'm going to take a Starlight Elena, a strong friend from my friends list here. I'll take Magicer. So if you're out there, Magicer, watching, thank you for your Starlight Elena. Here's the team I'm using, and at first glance it may look a little unorthodox, but these units together actually synergize surprisingly well for this trial. They each have a lot of unique skills that kind of check all the boxes that you need to check to, you know, comfortably get through this fight. You may be looking at Maeve and thinking she's a terrible tank for this fight because her normal form is physical cover, and so if she dies and re-raises, she'll be in physical cover, or if she dies twice and you raise her, she's going to auto-cover physical, and yeah, that's all true. However, if you remember from my previous clears where I took Sacred Shield Charlotte, as long as you're magic covering, you know, on the turn that you die and re-raise, you will, no matter what, you're going to go back to that magic cover slot and continue covering magic damage. And so as long as Maeve is built to resist everything in her normal form, she's good to go. All right. So I'll talk about the unique skills that these units bring to the table as we go through the builds. Let's go ahead and just get to the builds here. So Maeve, in her normal form, she needs to be 100% physical evasion. That's to make sure she doesn't die from any AoE physical attacks that happen, that, you know, might happen on the same turn that we push a threshold. All right, so she has to be able to evade because she won't have any Mirage stacks if she dies and re-raises. But otherwise, yeah, you want to make sure you have elemental resistances covered across the board. Focus on ice, light, and dark, but everything else should be at least 100% or better. So here's the gear that I used to achieve that. You see Runaway and Sea Dragon, that caps her off on physical evasion, because like most global exclusive units, she comes innately with 50% physical evasion, which is really nice. Yeah, so she's got full evasion there. Too easy there. Now, what's really neat about Maeve and what actually makes her surprisingly useful for this trial is that in her normal form, she has this ability, Wild Guard, which does 5 stacks of Mirage to the team, and it lasts for 5 turns, which is more than enough to keep the team safe from the AoE physical attacks that Morgana will throw at the party. So that's going to make sure nobody dies from those, and it works very, very well in this rotation because it lasts for 5 turns, the cooldown's for 5 turns, so you're not like you know, stuck with one turn, like, oh no, I'm stuck with one turn without, you know, without my Mirage stacks. No, like as soon as your Mirage stacks run out, this ability is ready to go. And so it's very, very nice and useful for this trial. You notice I didn't give her TMR or STMR here because we do not want her physical cover to proc, because we are going to be shifting into her physical cover, or sorry, into her normal form periodically through the fight to apply those Mirage stacks. So you do not want her auto cover to proc when you do that, when you Brave Shift. In her Brave Shift form, pretty much the same gear. A couple of things, you know, I gave her Honor of Grandshot for higher ice and light resist. Again, 100% evasion, because again, if she dies and re-raises before her Mirage stack ability is ready to reload, she's going to have to evade those physical attacks. And so here are the resistances. Again, the focus is on ice, light, and dark. 250% is a good, comfortable place to be on those. But, you know, we have another unit that we'll talk about later on that's going to really take care of the elemental resist for us anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, my Starlight Elena, I decided to go with a sword build on this one, just because we don't have a Katana Imperil unit on the team, but we do have regular Elena, and she has an undispellable sword Imperil. If you remember, in my last video I talked about that. And so I will use that later on in the fight. I'm not going to use it at the beginning, but I'll use it later on to try and clear the fight quickly once we, you know, once the fight gets sort of into the later stages, it gets a little hairier. We want to finish it quickly. So here's the build that I did. You know, nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. Hidden Power, of course, you want to make sure that's always equipped on her. It should be favorited. It should always be on her. 110% to dark, 100% light. The dark's more important. 300% human and 200% fairy killer. So yeah, I couldn't quite match the fairy killer on a sword build, but you know, that's all right. I am not too worried about it. Blue Mage Fina. She is surprisingly useful for this fight. I'd made her my evade, the passive provoke evade unit for this fight. That's what Durandal is doing there. Moogle Charm, and then Danger gets the blood pumping to cap off the passive provoke. Sea Dragon is for evasion. King Behemi's vision card to cap off her physical evasion. So it's good to have her as the evade provoke unit on this fight, just to take the heat off of Maeve and to make it easier to build Maeve with the elemental resistances. You see I gave her Ravenheart here. This is pretty important because Ravenheart gives you dual cast, and we need Blue Mage Fina to dual cast white magic. She can innately dual and triple cast blue magic, but for some reason she can't innately dual or triple cast white magic. So she needs dual cast in order to do that, because she has Re-Raise and Dispelga. The Dispelga is important because we're going to need to dispel the light absorption that Morgana puts up every few turns, because we are going light element on this team. Most teams go fire element, and I know I've said before that, you know, light element's not a smart choice, but I'm here to prove myself wrong and here to prove that you can go with a light element team as long as you have a unit that can dispel the light absorption when you need to. She's also here because she has a nice skill for this fight. Oh, where did it go? Crowning Veil. So it is a light imbue for the team with a 25% amp. That's very respectable. And a 150% fairy killer to the team. That is huge for this fight. And so Blue Mage Fina is actually really good for this fight. She also has this nice skill, which we will use later on in the fight. I learned the hard way that this skill is incredibly important for Maeve's survival later on in the fight. And I will not forget to use this ability. I already screwed up one recording on like turn 10 because I forgot to use this skill and Maeve died. So we are going to not forget this skill. So I'm doing that more for my own sanity than anything else. All right. So yeah, she's our evade provoke unit. It's also fun to watch her try and charm Morgana when she does her sexy pose, which is her counter attack, which is quite hilarious. All right, normal Elena. Her normal form, don't worry about anything except for just having plenty of dark resist. She's only going to be in this form for one turn in the entire fight, and that's just to put up the sword in peril. It's going to be spending the entire, pretty much the whole rest of the fight in her Brave Shift form. So you see I gave her the Empress's Rod. That's going to give us 500 morale to start the fight. And once we get the upgrade, that'll go up to 1500. And then Treasured Memorial Ring for another 600 at the start. You'll see this team does not generate very much morale, and later on in the fight, that can become an issue. So you want every little bit you can get to start off with. Otherwise, the build is irrelevant. Just make sure she's got plenty of dark resist. Okay. Gilgamesh here. So he's going to be spending the entire time in his Brave Shift form. So he's got plenty of light and dark resist there. Obsidian Bracer for the preemptive breaks. They're not really needed, but it's always nice to have, just in case. Otherwise, the build is totally irrelevant. He is incredibly useful here because he's got the on-demand breaks, 85%, which is good enough for this fight. She has so much passive, passives to her defense and spirit that honestly, the difference between an 85% and like an 87% or even 88% break is negligible in this fight. I believe that Morgana has 100% passive defense and spirit. And so, yeah, you're not going to tell a whole lot of difference between 85% and 87% that you get from Kaito. The other nice thing is he has an on-demand 130% light and peril on a bolting strike ability. Very nice, and it's the only ability that's bolting strike, so hey, that matches up perfectly. You can't go wrong. You can't miss this. You can't mix it up. You can't screw it up. So every turn he's literally just doing Excalibur and Excalibur. You cannot mess that up. Excalibur, right? Can't mess it up. Very, very nice. One more thing on Gilgamesh. So we are going to be doing the 4 turns of damage with a turn of no damage. And in fact, we're going to start the fight with a turn of no damage because we're going to try to avoid the all element imperil if we can help it. We're going to do everything we can to try and avoid the all element imperil. And so on the turns where we need to do no damage, Gilgamesh needs to do something. The problem is all of his abilities deal damage. And so I gave him Tetrasilphid so that he would have something to cast that did no damage. So you see Tetrasilphid's got the Bar Eroga skills. You can give him any Esper that gives him something that doesn't deal damage. But yeah, on those turns, he has to have something to not deal damage. All right, let's look at Magicker's build here. So Magicker, like most people, Magicker's doing a katana build here. Very, very nice build. A build like this would have been perfect for my previous video that I did where I used Kaito, because then you get the katana in peril and can take advantage of it. It's not a big deal that the friend unit doesn't have swords on this one. It's not gonna make that big of a difference. We're still gonna get the fight done in plenty of time. But yeah, Magicker's built a really nice Starlight Elena here. 110 dark resist, that's plenty. 275 to both human and fairy. Very nice build. So thank you, Magicker, for helping me get this clear. And so the units I've used previously are obviously Starlight Elena and original Elena. So Maeve, Blue Mage Fina, and Gilgamesh are new units, so that will get me my rod recipe. So wish me luck. I hope something doesn't go wrong. Dear Lord, Things always go wrong, it seems like, when I pass that 30% threshold, but we're going to find out. All right, let's get in there. All right. So there's that morale fill. Yeah, Morgana does like a turn 1 2000 morale fill, so that hurts. So we're already starting behind, but that's okay. We're going to do a bit of morale fill at the beginning, starting next turn. So you heard me mention we're going to do no damage on turn 1, right? So nothing we do here is going to do damage to Morgana, so that we do not proc that that skill. So sorry, I totally forgot to walk you through that. So original Elena just did the crystal refragmentation for the imperil removal and the buffs to all elements, and then she did that her skill that unlocks her triple cast. Maeve is going to do effective strategy, hunting call, and natural wall, and that's pretty much going to be on reload repeat every turn, except for turns where we switch to her normal form to do the mirage stacks, and we'll do that next turn. But otherwise, she's pretty much just doing those 3 skills on auto cast. I like to just try and keep it easy for myself, because this gets really repetitive and boring, and if I have to try to remember like 100 different 100 different things, it's gonna drive me crazy. All right, so we're not going to do the light imbue this turn. We're gonna do that next turn. Okay. So here we're just going to do some healing, mana fill, mighty guard. These are all just little things that do like a little bit of morale fill. All right. None of that's going to deal damage. Gilgamesh, Bar Eroga. And then Elena is just going to do Celestial Brilliance, Stella Maris for the buff, attack mag buff, and then Lux Overflow. None of those skills do any damage to Morgana, so we're safe to use those. All right. So this will be followed up by 4 turns of consistent damage to Morgana. We should push the first threshold by turn 5, and then that'll be followed up by another turn of no damage. Alright, sexy pose, there it is. Morgana, just not charmed by the sexy pose, apparently. Guess that's just not her thing. Alright, so we've switched Maeve into the normal form. So now we'll do effective strategy still, hunting call for morale fill, and now we're going to do wild guard. So that's going to put up the Mirage for the team. So she's still doing magic cover. And if you remember, we built her normal form for all those elemental resists. So she's still, she's like totally resisting everything. Like, doesn't matter what resists Morgana tries to put up at this point, she is fully covered. Now we can do Superluminal Speed for the triple cast. We're going to do both the morale skills because we need to get over 100% so that it unlocks Azure Might for the bigger human killer. It's not that big of a difference. Starlight Elena's buff already does a 150%, but 110%, or sorry, 160%, that extra 10%, it can come in handy, right? Alright, now Blue Mage Fina can do Crowning Veil. Alright, so that's going to add the Fairy Killer and the Light Imbue to everybody. It's going to last for 4 turns. Alright, and then just another Luminous Heal and Mighty Guard again. Alright, just for morale fill. Alright, so now we can start dealing some damage. So Gilgamesh is going to do Excalibur, followed by 2 Excaliburs. And he'll go first, of course. Alright, and so the way that I've been doing these guys is I wait until I see Gilgamesh's second cast, because I want to make sure not only that the breaks are in place, of course, but also that 130% light imperil is in place before Elena's start doing their damage. So I wait until I see Gilgamesh's second cast. Yeah, because Gilgamesh is doing irrelevant damage in this fight anyways, so it's like, who cares what his hits do? It, you know, sure, it helps ramp the chain up a little faster, but not that big of a deal. Alright, so you see Maeve still tanking magic just fine in her normal form. Not sexy enough. Not sexy enough, Fina. Alright. Oh, don't forget, dear Lord. Done that a couple of times where I forget to shift back. Alright, shift back to magic, effective strategy, hunting call, and natural wall. Alright, now we should have enough. Yep, we're over 100%, so now we can use Azure Might for the bigger buff and more morale fill. Alright, Blue Mage Fina is just going to do Luminous Heal, Manatopia, Mighty Guard. And she'll be pretty much on reload repeat until we need her to re-raise Maeve. Alright, and everyone else is reload repeat, so let's just go. Alright. Yeah, it's pretty standard, around 4, you know, between 450 and 500 is pretty standard on these turns. That'll go down to like the 300s after Morgana starts putting up her defense and spirit buffs. And those, of course, start on turn 5. Alright, so I think everyone is pretty much reload repeat on this one. Let's double check, make sure. Yep. So she hasn't put up the light absorption yet. That'll be next turn, because you have to do, I believe it's 4 turns of light damage, and then she retaliates with the light absorption. I always forget to do this one, but I think that gives you a little bit of a morale fill too. Alright, and here we're just going to keep doing the Azure Might, just to keep that, just keeping that human killer up. Just keep reapplying it. Alright, Maeve is on reload repeat. Alright. Okay, and let's send them away. Alright, so that's a good place to be. Anywhere between 50 and 60 is a good place to be. We should definitely push the threshold next turn. Alright, there is Virtuous Light. So that is the light absorption. Okay, so we'll have to dispel that. The timing works out perfectly because we need to put re-raise on Maeve this turn anyways, because we're going to push the threshold. So now we dual cast re-raise and Dispelga. Should be the first thing you do just to make sure it's done. Re-raise on Maeve and Dispelga. Alright, because you see we've got the absorbs light element. And Dispelga. Okay, takes care of that. Easy. Alright, now, alright, we can basically reload repeat. For some reason Elena doesn't want to reload repeat. I think because you can't reload skills that are dependent on morale value, maybe? I'm not really sure. The only difference is we're going to do double Gemini and Star Supernova, because this is the last turn we'll have without without Morgana's Undispellable Defense Spirit buff. She's going to put that up this turn, and so this is the last chance we'll have to use the Star Supernova, which is a slightly higher modifier. So we're just, it's just doing as much damage as you can on this turn. We should still have the Fairy Killer buff. I think this is the last turn that's active. Yep, it's a boost damage against fairies. Perfect. All right. So yeah, the timing works out really nice on this fight. The test runs I've done, everything, the timing's always just worked out really, really smoothly. It's always been like one little thing that I've forgotten. Always like at the end of the fight, I forget to do one thing, and yeah, I get a wipe. But hopefully this one will be a nice clean run. All right, so Gilgamesh, go. Nice. All right. Yes, 500 million. That was good. All right, so Ghastly Nightmare. Okay, so I'm glad it happened on the threshold turn. It's not a big deal with this team if she doesn't do Ghastly Nightmare, because there's a chance that she doesn't, and if she doesn't do it on the turn you push the 3 threshold, almost guaranteed she'll do it the next turn, because the chance is really high. So for her not to do it 2 turns in a row after pushing the 50% threshold, that's a very, very low probability. But we're not going to push the threshold this turn. In fact, we're not going to do any damage this turn, so this is a no damage turn. All right, Azure Might. We don't really have to worry about... oh, that's right. We're down to our double cast, which is fine. We do not need triple cast anymore. So she's just going to do... oh, actually... All right, I'm still high enough that I don't think... Whew, man, it's going to be close, isn't it? All right, we need to reapply the elemental debuffs. Sorry, elemental buffs. That's for Maeve. Okay, and then a legendary heroine for the morale fill. All right, Blue Mage Fina is going to put re-raise on Maeve again. And just do Curaja because we don't need to dispel anything. Yep. Okay. Don't forget to shift Maeve back. Effective strategy. Hunting Call. Natural Wall. Reload, repeat. Am I right? Alright. Alright, and here, yeah, we're just going to do... Oh, yeah, this turn we're just going to do Celestial Brilliance. That's for the light amp, or 50% light amp, and the human killer buff. And then Bar Eroga for Gilgamesh. Alright, so we should not get true omniscience on this turn. If it still happens, then I must have messed something up. All right. Fina, Maeve is going to switch because our Wild Guard is ready to reapply those Mirage stacks for everybody. All right. All right, Azure Might and Legendary Heroine. Okay, and yeah, he's basically just reload, repeat here. We got to make sure, don't forget, Fina is going to do Crowning Veil now for the Fairy Killer. Followed by Luminous Heal and Mighty Guard. We double check, make sure we don't have, yep, we do not have the light absorption yet. All right, now here, it's important that you do Stella Maris for the attack mag buffs. Your damage will suffer if you don't do those. Yeah, it'll be pretty dreadful. A couple of turns, I forgot to do that, and yeah, the damage is just awful, right? So here, since Elena's aren't doing damage on their first cast, you don't have to worry about waiting for Gilgamesh. He'll still be the first in the chain queue, but yeah, you just do them all one after the other. Okay. All right, now we should pass the threshold on this turn, I believe. Just trying to remind myself to do that every turn. Okay, we would repeat that. And I'm just going to use Azure Might every turn I can get away with it at this point, because I think next turn we're going to be below 100%. You see morale's really difficult to maintain with this team. And so, yeah, you just want to make sure... how long is her re-raise? She's got one more turn on that, so I don't need to worry about that. I will need to reapply the re-raise next turn if for some reason we come up short, but I don't think we will. I don't think we're going to come up short on the threshold here. So, yeah, we'll just do our normal reload repeat here. Okay, and then just triple Gemini. All right, this should push the threshold for us. We're gonna find out. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. All right, so she's definitely gonna die this turn. There's the Ghastly Nightmare. All right. The good thing is there's like there's that nice little break after the Ghastly Nightmare, and it gives Maeve plenty of time to get back up. The only thing that happens is that fixed attack, which you see does not nearly enough damage to come anywhere close to killing anybody. Because we've got the general mitigation up that cuts it down from, I think, like 10,000 HP to 5,000. Even if it was still 10,000, everyone's got well over 10,000 HP, so it's never an issue. All right, don't forget to shift Maeve. All right, do her usual. Just make sure. All right, she's not absorbing light on this turn. Okay, so here, it's very important that you use Total Peace. All right, because one of the elements that we want to make sure Maeve is totally resistant to is wind. That's an important one, as I found out many times. That's an important one to keep Maeve alive here. And so Total Peace does a 100% wind, light, and dark. So it's really nice, and that's for 5 turns, which should be more than enough to get us through the fight. Yeah, Mighty Guard, why not? So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift. I'm going to shift Elena, and we are going to put up that Undispellable Sword Imperil. Okay, this should get us through the rest of the fight, and so we shouldn't have to reapply it. I even, you even could have done this maybe last turn or the turn before you push this threshold if you wanted to. Like if you were worried you weren't going to push the threshold on this turn, you could have done the Sword Imperil last turn. But this is good a place as any to do it. So she's going to chain it up with everybody, just to get in on the action. Chain it up with her sisters. All right. All right. And let's chain it up. Okay, if we can maintain that, we should be done with this fight probably within the next few turns. So we might even make the 15-turn mission on this one. This is not an optimized team for getting, all the turn count missions by any means. Yeah, you saw the light absorb there. So that's good to know. So that means we need to do let's do dual cast, and I'm gonna do this strictly because you never know. So I'll do the re-raise with the Dispelga. just to make sure that nothing happens to Maeve, because you never know. All right, so we got to get rid of that. So re-raise on Maeve. And this spell, you see the defense spirit buffs are undispellable, unfortunately, but the Sword in Peril is not. So Sword in Peril stays there. Okay. Do we have the Mirage stacks up again yet? No. Okay, yeah, we're still a turn or two up from that. Okay. So yeah, Maeve is going to stay in shift form and just do her usual. All right, Elena can shift back now. All right, we'll just do Azure Protection. Actually, I think we might get more morale if we do this, because I think this auto casts some buffs later. Oh no, they're just all at the same. They're all at the same time. Okay. Just one has a shorter duration. Okay, never mind. But I think buffs. I think when you do an all-party buff, it still helps with morale, anyways. Okay, I'm just rambling now. All right. So this is going to be the last turn that we do any damage. We're going to take a day off next turn. Just a reminder, so we don't get the big imperils. So this should put us under 10. Yep. All right. So it might, you know, if you're feeling lucky. And you want to just try and go ahead and finish it next turn, you can. Oh geez. Why did Maeve die? Okay. That ain't cool. Not really sure why that happened. All right, well, like I said, things always go sideways. That's why thank God I put the re-raise on her. I have no idea why she died there, but she did. All right, so normally this would be a no damage turn, because I think, yeah, I think our fairy killer's gone. Yeah, we have nothing. So really we kind of have to take this turn. Ah, good. Crystal refrag. Woo! Scared myself. I knew that this team, you know, had good synergy, and that just verified it right there. Crystal refragmentation is up and ready to go. Whew. Okay. So, yeah, we'll put re-raise again on Maeve, Kiraja, Crystal Refrag. Everyone else is just going to do buffs. Celestial Brilliance, Bar Eroga. Okay, so this is a no damage turn. Yep. And she's in shift form, correct? Yep. Ooh, that morale. Okay. Let me just check. Yep. So all her buffs are still in place. So she should be resisting everything. It's possible that I just forgot the timing. Maybe that's what it was. Did I forget to reapply Crystal Refragmentation on... Would it have been turn 10? That's probably why she died. Because again, I goofed. Let me just double check and make sure she's fully resistant to everything. Yeah. So she's fully resistant to everything, and even with all the debuffs. All right, that must have just been my my issue. Oh, never actually had low enough morale. What does this do? That's funny. You know, I've never had I've never had, oh my gosh, I might even get low enough. I wonder if I'm going to get low enough to use this skill. I've never even seen some of these skills when you reach like such a low morale that these activate. Like, this is hilarious. Maybe like a version of, oh, cool. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to use that, but cool. Yeah, here we're just doing Wild Guard. That's for the Mirage stacks. Okay. Because you saw she did a couple of AoE physicals on that last turn, and those were all still miraged, but it looks like our mirage is gone, and you know, the timer works very, very well on this one. Okay, so now we're going to start doing damage again. Oh, let me double check, make sure we're not absorbing. Yeah, not absorbing anything. So if she had, for, you know, again, I always get a little wonky on the timing. If she had put up Light Absorb on this turn, you can use Rectification, which is a Dispel. All right, Crowning Veil, Luminous Heal, Mighty Guard. Now, it's possible that we're going to kill on this turn. That would be awesome if we did. But it's also possible that we come up short because the Defense Spirit buff has increased from 50% to, I believe, 100% now. And that's a pretty huge buff when your base stats are like 300,000. So yeah. Yeah, it's definitely possible that we don't actually kill her on this turn. Alright, Stellamaris will be ready next turn, so we just go ahead with the triple Gemini blade and we pray to the goddess. Alright, pray to the goddess that this gets it done. Alright, pray with me, folks. Here we go. Whoo! Alright, there it is. 12 turns, that's not too bad. You know, with this team, honestly, like, I would have been happy if, you know, I would have been happy if we got it done in 20 turns. Although the morale probably would not have let us go all the way out to 20 turns, to be honest with you. All right. Again, Starlight, Elena's are carrying this fight clearly. They are doing all the damage here. No doubt who the king of this fight is, or I should say the queen of this fight. And yes, I got the recipe. Haha, it is mine. My precious. Sorry, getting a little weird there. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned later on this week as I start putting together my Esther team. I will do one more clear video of this trial with my Esther team to get that masters, those 2 master crowns there. I'm pretty sure my team is going to have 3 unique units because I haven't used Chow yet, and I haven't used Esther yet, obviously, and I'm going to be bringing Sylvie. I haven't used Sylvie, so there's 3 units right there that I haven't used. So yeah, my Esther clear will definitely get me those master crowns whenever I do that. So that'll be coming up later this week, so stay tuned. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm also working on the next chapter in Esther's story. So look out for the next episode of Murder Bunny's Revenge. That will also hopefully be dropping this week. I'm working hard on it to try and get it out to you guys this week. All right, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for following me and for following along. Thank you guys so much, those of you that voted on the community post. I saw a lot of really great response. It looks like there are a lot of you that like it when I do these sort of slow walkthroughs where I kind of talk you through it. That's really great. I will certainly take that into consideration, and I'll try to do more of those, more of these in the future. So thank you so much for shouting out. For those of you that like everything and just want me to keep doing what I'm doing, also thank you guys. I'll never stop doing what I'm doing, you know, until either Esther dies or the game dies, right? But Esther will never die, and as far as I'm concerned, I think Gumi knows to keep Esther alive as long as possible. All right, so anyways, I've talked your head off. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the other side.